And I just want to start off this morning by saying that we are with Ms. Joelen Merkel. It is December 16th, 2020. My name is Paul Ortiz, and we're here with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program, conducting an interview with Ms. Merkel, primarily to talk about kind of the origins and operations and why the Opportunity Scholars Program is so very important to the University of Florida. And Ms. Merkel, I wonder if we could start by having you talk about the importance you feel that education plays in one's life, and how education has played a role in your life.
Well, we could spend a whole hour on that, Paul, and please call me Joelen. Well, let's start at the beginning. I was born in West Palm Beach, Florida. I graduated from high school in 1969. And right before graduation, I only saw myself going to a junior college. I came from a simple family. My parents did not have any higher education behind them. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, which was the norm back then. And my dad was a blue-collar worker. So I did well in high school. I was fourth in my class. But there wasn't a means for me to go away to college. That changed through a scholarship I received that was funded through the Kenan Foundation, and that's the Kenan of the flagler systems. And it changed my life. It was transformational. I know the impact of what higher ed can mean to one's life because it happened to me. So I was first gen. I was embraced by the University of Florida. This is, like I said, back in 1969, things were a lot different back then. It was a much smaller school, but still a very welcoming school. And it changed my life, not just from a career standpoint, because I had an outstanding career because of the terrific education that UF afforded me, but also the people I met. And I met my husband there and met lifelong friends there. So higher ed just opens the door to so many opportunities. It's unlimited. I remember Dr. Lombardi said, if you can dream it, you can do it at UF. And I remembered that statement. And Dr. Lombardi was our president back in the 1990s, but that was a powerful statement and still resonates with me.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you're a first-gen student. What kind of backgrounds in terms of like occupations and work did your family have up to that point? And what leads you to go to the University of Florida?
Well, I went to the University of Florida strictly because I was given a scholarship. Strictly. That was it, period. If I hadn't gone to the University of Florida, I would have gone to a junior college that was close to West Palm Beach. And I think I know my career path would have been much, much different. I got a degree in accounting at UF, and I met Al Warrington while on campus at UF. And Al actually was my first boss as I was hired by Arthur Andersen, one of the big, back then, 8 accounting firms. And we all know who Al is, you know, the namesake for the College of Business. So that's an example of the networking that happens when you're at UF. I mentioned my parents were very simple. My dad was blue collar. My mom stayed at home. You couldn't get more simpler than that.
And Joelen, now you had, of course, you've had an amazing career. You're constantly on the go. When did you first begin to participate as an alumni in kind of the alumni leadership at UF? Given you've always had multiple responsibilities in career and.
Well, my goodness, that goes back quite a ways. I think it was in the 1990s, I actually joined the foundation board. So I've been a board member for a long time on the foundation. When I became a trustee, I was a member of the inaugural board of trustees appointed by then Governor Jeb Bush back in 2001. So I think my term on the foundation then was as a trustee member, but any position I have been offered at UF, I will say yes to, because I believe in giving back. It's a wonderful way to be on campus, to meet wonderful people, and to express this attitude of gratitude I have. So whether it's on the executive board of the foundation, or the audit chair for the research foundation, or the steering committee for the Fisher School of Accounting, or advisory council for the College of Business, or a stint on the Alumni Association board, or I'm now the audit chair for the Athletic Association. If I'm asked, oh, and I forgot, I was asked to be the first chair of the Leadership Council for MFOS. If I'm asked to participate, I can't say no.
Nice, thank you. Well, in thinking about your experiences as a first generation student and the importance you ascribe to UF being a welcoming campus. Now, before, well, let me kind of rephrase that. In all of this activity and service to UF and higher education, you know, after you graduate, did you continue to think about, were you able to kind of help first generation students? And I'm thinking of the year before the rise of the Opportunity Scholars Program. Were there other scholarships or other programs you participated in for first gen students?
I never thought of myself as a first gen student. I think back in those years, it was not uncommon for students at UF to be first gen. I just never thought differently about students. And to be honest with you, I really never thought about first gen students until Dr. Machen had this wonderful vision of enhancing UF through the diversity that comes with a program that embraces and invites the brilliant kids out there that don't have the financial means to attend UF. So I really never gave it the thought.
So what was your thought when you first, if you could just kind of describe when Bernie first approached you with this idea for the Opportunity Scholars Program? Can you, like, around what time was that? Like, what year do you remember? And what were your initial thoughts?
Well, Bernie didn't approach me individually. My recollection is that he approached the Board of Trustees. I was on the board that hired Bernie back in 2003. He became our president in January 2004. And I think it was early 2006 that he approached the board with this idea of, hey, I'm thinking about, what do you think? How can we get our arms around it? And are you on board? And that's my recollection. It's strictly driven by Bernie. And so we approached the whole board, and we did embrace it, but it needed to grow. You know, when I first became a member of the Board of Trustees, one of the things we learned was we weren't telling our story, meaning the University of Florida's story, very well. We were not given the credits we should have been given by college counselors at high schools. So when the MFOS program began, I think it was deja vu all over again. We really had to tell this story. And the way you tell this story is by having venues where the scholars can tell their stories. And so as we realized how special these students were and how we could help them along the way, and we saw the involvement and dedication and support initially by Dr. Machen through his retirement, and then certainly President Fox has embraced the program strongly also. He's made it a priority in our current $3 billion campaign. It's well received, it's well recognized. The colleges themselves have embraced it. So it has grown and blossomed and gotten the recognition it should get, because I believe we may be the largest first gen program in the country.
Yes. Joelen, can you talk, you talked about telling our story. And can you share some of the stories that you began hearing out of the MFOS program from the scholars that really kind of made an impact on you?
Oh, yes. When our leadership council began in 2014, and I was the first leadership council chair, we decided to have a couple of scholars attend each of our meetings and allowed them to share with us whatever they wanted to share with us. And for some students, it was very, very painful because there were elements of abuse in some of these relationships. There were single parent situations. There was certainly financial difficulty. There was the simple problem of, where do I do my homework? Where do I do my homework? Where in this little apartment is there sufficient light? Is there a table? Is there a desk? Is there a place where I can study? So the very simple basic needs of how a child can get good grades by studying became apparent to us. We were in tears many a time listening to these students. And we actually had some parents come and join us, and they would share their stories too. And I think it was very powerful for them to feel comfortable enough to share with us their difficulties. I mean, that's very telling for them to share the secrets in their hearts. And they did it because we were changing their lives. So it was a way for them to tell us, this is where I was, I'm not there anymore. This is where I am now. This is where I plan to go. And it's because of you. Very, very powerful.
Thank you. You know, one of the things, Joelen, that Dr. Machen and Leslie Pendleton and Dave Kratzer have shared with us is kind of their perspectives on how the Opportunity Scholars Program has really improved the University of Florida. It's not just a program to kind of, to help people. It's a program that actually enhances and improves the university. Can you talk on that, on how you feel the Opportunity Scholars Program has really improved UF, maybe helped us get our story out? And
well, yes, I think that we're recognized, and I may be wrong here, Paul, but I think we're recognized as the sixth best first gen program in the country. Maybe I had that a little wrong, but it's certainly in the top 10. And as we have strived over the years, the last 15 years or so, to first break into the top 10 in rankings as a public university, we all know the importance of a diverse student population. And having this first gen program certainly helps in the diversity of our university. And I think it also opens our eyes. And I think it helps us become more compassionate, more understanding, more embracing, because we may just be looking at our own situation and not realizing how difficult it is for others. So I think this really has helped all of us at UF, the students, the faculty, the administration, and that makes us a better university. And as we strive now to get it into the top 5, all of this is helping us.
thank you. From your perspective and your expertise and leadership over the years, what are the types of elements do you feel you bring to MFOS now as kind of a leader within the program, and where would you like MFOS to be, say in 5 or 10 years?
Well, I think MFOS has made terrific growth and improvement, advancement, telling our story, whatever, since Dr. Machen first thought about it and introduced it in, I believe, 2006. And just this year, or maybe it was last year, we increased the number of students that were accepted from 300 students to 350. So obviously the program is growing because the need is there. I'm sure you're aware that when this program was first set up, the ceiling for household income for someone to be considered for a Machen Florida Opportunity scholarship was that the family income be below $40,000. The last several years, the average income for those students who were accepted was $19,000. They never could have afforded, those students could never have afforded to come here without our help. So the need is there. And that's why the enrollment is growing. And that's why President Fox, Tom Mitchell, our VP of Advancement, have embraced MFOS as a key priority in the campaign. We know that there's a need out there. We know we can do better. And one thing that was very critical to me was, and I'm not sure who all gets credit for this, but I'll give it to President Fox and Tom Mitchell and the deans of the colleges. They came up with an arrangement where one could donate, like myself. I was a graduate from the College of Business, but all of my money, now all of my contributions to UF go to the MFOS program. But my college gets credit for it because with the help of Tom's team, we work out the wording that the benefit of the dollars has to be to an accounting student or a business student, or I've done a program for, I think, a master's student. So it's a way to tie the dollars to the college so that they get credit towards their goal, but MFOS is really being involved in the selection of the students. So I think that's a wonderful way to get a buy-in from the deans, and so I give President Fox kudos for that.
Excellent, excellent. Joelen, how do you pitch MFOS to someone who maybe has never heard of it before, who may be kind of either skeptical or just doesn't know? I mean, how do you one-on-one tell the story of MFOS?
Well, I tell the story quite a bit whenever I am around Gator friends or just any friend. And I've been successful a couple of times, but one in particular stands out. I have a neighbor who played football at the University of Florida a few years ago. And he and his wife took their dog to the vet school, and their dog was very ill. And the wonderful care at our vet school saved their dog, and they were very full of gratitude for that. So I said, well, here, let me throw something out at you. We've got this wonderful program. And I told them about MFOS, and they bought in. They bought in, and they made a 7-figure gift to the program, but they also included dollars to not just the vet school. They did the vet school directly. They did MFOS, and there was a third leg of that gift of theirs. But it was a significant gift, and it was actually easy to do. I think everybody has a passion about something, whether it's Brain Institute, cancer, water, whatever it might be. And we at UF have an answer to everybody's problem. We have a way where we can do research to help in anything that somebody could be passionate about. So I think it's trying to find someone's passion or introduce the idea of them thinking about their passions and how UF can help them advance that passion.
Excellent. Have you been able to kind of follow the career paths of the alumni of the MFOS program at this point? It's still fairly new, just coming up on 15 years, but have you been able to see or kind of watch the students grow as they matriculate? And
we do get information on our graduates, and it's very impressive, how many have gone on to, a professional degrees or a master's program or whatever, and they're doing very well. A name escapes me right now. I can see this person, but I can't pull the name out of my filing system up here. I think he was in the first cohort, And he comes back to UF for events. And upon graduation, he became a lawyer. And he soon thereafter made a 5-year commitment to the program. And, that was awesome for him to do, because he's showing his leadership to other graduates that, it may not sound like a lot, but when you're fresh out of school, any donation is appreciated. And that's how development works. You start at this level, and over the years, you grow in your giving. And there's a number of MFOS scholars who have given. On Gator Giving Day, which is in February, I believe, Leslie, Dr. Pendleton, has a wonderful program that's based upon reaching kids, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or however, to encourage them to donate, and they do. So this idea of giving back is definitely there. I see some scholars when there is an MFOS event that I attend, but I'm not following any one in particular.
Mhm. Wonderful. Joelen, I wonder if you could talk about some of the MFOS events that you've attended that kind of come to mind, and some of your experiences at MFOS events, talking to the scholars, talking to other folks in those events.
Well, Dr. Machen and his wife, Chris, have just been wonderful in continuing to embrace MFOS scholars. As I'm sure you probably know, Dr. Machen and his wife had welcome receptions for the scholars when they first started at UF, and then also graduation receptions for them. And a number of guests were invited to attend, from faculty throughout the university, administrators, and donors. And I was able to attend some of them. It's a 4.5-hour one-way drive. So I've been to some, but Zooming has certainly opened up the ability to zoom in on more of them. Just the last graduation reception that was held a few months ago, and was wildly participated in. I think there were over 160 on Zoom, so you couldn't see everybody. But Dr. Machen spoke, Chris spoke, Dr. Fox spoke. A lot of the students who are graduates then, who joined in on Zoom, had their parents with them, and their parents spoke out, again saying, thank you. You changed not only my son or my daughter's life, but they're setting an example for the neighborhood, for the other kids in their, in classes below them, and in their family, or whatever it might be. So they're just powerful, and it's a wonderful way of continuing to embrace the students, to let them know that they have their family. Actually, I think Bernie used that word. You are part of, our family forever as an MFOS scholar. So it's not 4 years and you're out. It's 4 years and forever. I think it's very powerful.
Why is it important for business leaders such as yourself, if you could kind of reflect, why is it important for business leaders to be involved in, supporting education, maybe philanthropy, other kind of things, because you're incredibly busy to begin with, so it's extra work. But why do you remain dedicated, and why do you think it's important in general for people in business to support these types of activities?
I think people in business, probably everybody actually, is looking for value. And I think there's a tremendous amount of value in the MFOS program, because these students are particularly hungry for an education, particularly. And through this program, they've been given that which has been their goal, and they're not going to mess up. They're appreciative to not have to have a job while they're at school. They can focus entirely on their education. They have excellent graduation rates. They have excellent scores. I think that they've done a little bit better even than the average student at UF. And again, I think that's because they're hungry. So going back to business people, I think you're always looking for value, and you're trying to find that hidden gem, that hidden treasure, and you find it by supporting someone who needs an education. And most business people, I think, recognize the value of education, and they're willing to participate.
Excellent. As a leader now in MFOS, how would you like to see the program develop in the next few years? Is it growth? Is it more stability financially, or what is it? What are some of them?
Well, I think it's grown quite a bit since the beginning. Dr. Pendleton has done a terrific job. The VP of Student Affairs has embraced this from the get-go. We do have a different VP of Student Affairs now than then, but each one of them has embraced it. So the support is there for it to grow because, as I said, when admissions does their difficult job of determining who is going to get that wonderful notice that you are an MFOS recipient, it's recognized that there's many, many, many more students that could be so blessed. So the program has to grow. And how do you do it? You do it by increasing the endowment. And again, with President Fox's prioritization of MFOS program and Tom Mitchell out there, trying to get support, that endowment is going to grow, which means we can give more scholarships. And as we continue to tell our story through various venues, and the students prove themselves out in the workforce, I think the buy-in will continue. There's been a little bit of a growth in the support staff for the program. And it's amazing how well Dr. Pendleton and her small staff have found a way to mentor each student. They know them by name, they know their difficulties, they know their challenges. They seem to have a special pair of glasses that they put on because they see things through their students' needs and anticipate their needs and try to help them with their needs. So I think we've grown a lot since the beginning, and we're only getting better. I think we will do better. We will encourage more donations, and we'll be growing this program from, like I said, 300 to 350 students to where we're at 1,400 students a year rather than the 1,200 students we had been at. Dingling participle there, participle.
Thank you.
Oh, well.
You mentioned a number of individuals who've been key to the origins and the growth of MFOS. And of course, your name came up very, very early on in this project as being a key person. Can you talk about who you think some of the key people have been, and then tell us a little bit about why they've been important for the program? Like, for example, you mentioned Tom Mitchell. We will be interviewing him a bit later down the road, but why is he an important person in your mind in terms of what he's contributed to MFOS and maybe some of the other people too?
Well, Tom Mitchell joined us, if my recollection is correct, around 2010. I think he's been with us 10 years, maybe 11. Paul Rubel was the VP of development before Tom. Tom has done an incredible job at the foundation in raising money. As you probably know, we've raised over $500 million the last 2 years, back-to-back consecutive years. That's just an amazing number. Back when I was involved with It's the Performance That Counts campaign in mid 2005, 2006, somewhere around there, if my memory is correct, our goal was $750 million for a 7-year program. And here we are at $2.9 billion almost towards our $3 billion campaign. And you have to give a lot of credit to the guy who's the leader, and the leader is Tom Mitchell. And there is that emphasis on MFOS. As a member of the executive board of the foundation, we, the executive board, have promised to donate this year, each one of us individually, however we want to, in addition to what we normally do, just so it speaks how important the program is to the executive board of the foundation. And the board of the Alumni Association is also doing the same thing. It's the message that it sends on how important it is. And we know we've got Tom Mitchell's support. And like I said, I believe Tom Mitchell was very instrumental with President Fox in finding out a way to make sure that the deans were on board with this program and not looking at it as a competitive program where it would be taking money away from them. So Tom's been very instrumental.
Excellent. Joelen, what about some other individuals in your estimation who've been really important?
Well,
MFOS?
Going back to the beginning, I think, and to go back 14 years is a long time, but I think that Manny Fernandez, who was the chair of the board back when President Machen brought this to our attention, immediately embraced the program and asked all the board members to buy in at whatever level they were comfortable with. So Manny was a very strong proponent. I believe David Brown was very helpful in meeting with Governor Bush? I think it was, Governor Jeb Bush, to discuss this program with him, President Machen, David Brown, and Governor Bush, because, it's helpful to get Tallahassee's support and understanding of what we're doing. So I would give kudos to those people too. I really don't want to name a lot, other
Right.
names, because I'd miss somebody, and I would hate
Sure.
to miss somebody. I have every single person that has served on the Leadership Council has been instrumental. They've gone back and they've tried to tell the story in their town. I know there have been a number of venues that Leadership Council members have had in their neighborhoods to raise awareness of the program. So Lou Oberndorf, who followed me as chair of the Leadership Council, I know he had several at his home. So it's just, everybody saying, what can I do? How can I spread the word? We had a couple of events down in Palm Beach County where MFOS scholars were invited to participate. I was there too. And we just met with some key people in the county. And it's just a way for us to showcase, look at this person, look how successful this person is. This is the kind of person you want working for you, that they work hard, they're determined, they've got integrity, they've got great qualities. And it's just, how many of these can you do? And they're done all the time. So a lot of people are involved, and I don't want to miss naming them individually. I'll name them as a group. The Leadership Council members have been very helpful.
Excellent. And when did the Leadership Council come into, you're referring to the MFOS Leadership Council?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I believe it was in 2014, because President Fox started January of 2015. So President Machen knew he was retiring at the end of 2014, although he wanted to retire earlier, and Governor Bush persuaded him to stay on a little bit longer. And I think President Machen was aware that there needed to be a Leadership Council, especially with him not being the president any longer. And so that's my recollection. I think the first meeting I can think of that I chaired was in the fall of 2014.
Mm-hmm. What was on the plate for that first year of the Leadership Council? It was a new body at the time. What were its main kind of charges, responsibilities?
Well, I think the main charges included telling our story, raising money. I mean, that was key. Um, it boils down very simply that because these students are so outstanding and they through other scholarships raise maybe $10,000 a year towards their education, that it costs ballpark about $10,000 from MFOS endowment or other monies a year to provide them with the full funding for their costs at UF, not just tuition, but room and board and other expenses too. So for $10,000 a year, you're changing somebody's life. So we had to get that story out. And, that takes a little bit of time. We did have a development person assigned to MFOS, and that was very helpful. So again, at the beginning, the story was tell our story better, meet some of our scholars, knock on foundation doors, or whatever UF asks us to do, or whatever we can think of doing to get the need across.
Excellent.
And of course, make the scholars realize how much we appreciated them, how much we wanted to help them, that they were not alone. And it wasn't just, but primarily it was Leslie's group of having mentors, and they knew they could always go to Leslie if they had an issue. But we wanted them to know that they had the support of our council and administration and others that really cared about them. And for example, Bernie and I teamed up this year, and actually it was Bernie's idea of getting MFOS masks for each one of our scholars, just as a way of saying, hey, we care about you. We want you to be protected. Here's a mask from us. So it's little things like that that let them know that they're thought about, they're cared about, and there's many examples of that.
What is now you've spoken about Leslie a little bit. Can you talk about what makes her such a good leader as a director of MFOS? What are some of the qualities that you've seen in her?
Well, Leslie really is pretty spectacular. Somewhere, and I don't remember where it was in the not too distant past, she obtained her doctorate, and she's got 2 little girls at home, and that's quite a bit on your plate to be a mom for 2. She's got a great husband, Matt, and she's got a lot on her plate regarding her responsibilities with MFOS. But she's very compassionate. Like I said, she wears a different pair of glasses because she can see the other side of the story. It's like she's looking through the lens of a scholar's eyes as to, are they concerned about this? Are they uncomfortable about this? How can I help them? What are their needs? And, she recently had her office moved to the Rights Union. And what a wonderful move for that office to be right there in the student union, which is so fantastic after its recent renovation. Is just a perfect place for her to be with the students. So she's young, she's vivacious, she's got tons of energy. She's very caring, all of those good qualities.
Excellent. What are some of the you talked about the importance of events with the scholars, interacting with the leadership board, President Fox. What are some of the important events coming up for MFOS? And kind of a tag question, I know it's kind of maybe apples and oranges, but how has the global pandemic impacted MFOS? Because it seems to me that's such an important part of the program has been these in-person meetings and getting together and stuff. So how has the pandemic affecting the program?
Well, in a strange way, the pandemic's impacting all of us. You know, we're learning how to live with this challenge. We're learning how to still be able to reach out even though we can't touch. And like I mentioned about the reception for the graduates this past spring, I think having the meeting by Zoom allowed a lot more people to attend. So in a way, it broadens the reach of the meeting. And I think you can still make it very personal, which Leslie did for that reception. She had a number of scholars speak and tell their story. So there's pluses and minuses. I think the pandemic is just something we have to learn how to live with. And I think at UF, they found a way to make it work. You know, going back to events with scholars, I know personally I have, and I believe other Gators have donated football tickets. Not that frequently, but certainly when I couldn't attend a game, I would find out if there was someone who could use the tickets. And a couple times, some scholars were able to use my football tickets because, you know, that's not on their list of things to do. I mean, they'd like to, but, you know, when you're being very careful, that may not be a top priority. So I have met a couple scholars that have been able to go to a football game, which, you know, is part of the college experience. Also through my Gator Club, Palm Beach County Gator Club, a few years ago, I gave money for an MFOS scholarship, and I met that student at UF, told her, reach out to me anytime you need to, or if you have any questions or anything I can do. So there's and I'm not the only one doing this. You know, other leadership council members are doing this. We're just trying to find ways to let scholars know we think about them, we care about them, and trying to broaden their activities on campus.
Excellent. What was it like going to the football game with the MFOS? Scott, what kind of experience did they have? Had they ever been to a game before, or was it kind of a new?
It was a new experience. It was lots of fun. And actually, I ran into them, I forget where, maybe it was at the Rights Union. They recognized me and they came up to me and said, "Hey, do you remember?" And so that was pretty touching. And let me tell you something. I remember my first football game in September 1969. We played Houston. We beat Houston. And I saw the John Reeves, Carlos Alvarez connection. And that was a powerful memory because, you know, that was more than 50 years ago. So I think that it's the same for the scholars. You know, the first football game you go to, it's just fabulous to see the Gators doing so well athletically, in addition to how well they're doing academically.
Right. Excellent, Joelen. Well, I have to kind of zoom. Speaking of Zoom, I have to zoom off in a moment, but I know that Adolfo and our senior graduate students have questions for you. I just want to thank you so much on behalf of the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program for giving us your time this morning. We will be in contact for possible follow-up questions, and also if you have other stories you want to share, please outreach to us at any time. Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Adolfo, you can take the helm. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Joelen, thank you so much for all the philanthropy work that you've been doing. I love the fact that you were talking about how some of that money or the funds that get dispersed, they don't just go to undergrad, but some of them you had mentioned that also go to master's levels. So the program or the money that's coming in is helping various types of students. It's not just one specific student, which I really love that. Being a graduate student, I know it can be very difficult having financial stability, and you're helping out providing some of that. One of my questions here that I did have, do you do other philanthropy outside of the MFOS?
Well, if you mean, do I sit on other boards?
or
Is
other
that
board.
what you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I consider my husband and me to be very philanthropic. A large percentage of our philanthropy is for UF because my husband graduated from UF, 2 degrees, his bachelor's and his law degree, and our son also graduated from UF. So UF is at the top of my priority. We do give to other charities, to other organizations. I have been on the board of other organizations, um, um, the Florida House, which is the organization that's in DC for the state of Florida. I've been on the board of the Norton Art Museum, a wonderful museum down in UF. I've been on councils for my church. So I do have other areas of giving service, but my primary um, hours are donated to UF.
All right. Um, outside of the outside of the program, I guess, do you reach out to students on the side, or do you provide them any advice? Do they come up to you at times, or do you stay in contact with them once they graduate?
I really haven't. I'll see them at some events from time to time and certainly, welcome them and congratulate them on their success. But no, I don't. And that's probably something I can do a better job at. But no, I've fallen short there.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, there's so many students and so many things going on at once. So, I mean, that's okay. That's no problem. Well, from my side, honestly, I had like a lot of questions, but Dr. Ortiz, I had to scratch them off as he was going through them. So from my end, you're good to go. But
Okay.
I'll leave it to Daniel here to ask more
Hi,
questions.
Daniel.
Hello, now we can see each other in our wonderful backgrounds. I just have two questions. The first one is, how has the program impacted you and your family? This program that you're so passionate about, how has it impacted you and yours?
Well, giving to the University of Florida, like I said to Adolfo, is our top priority. My husband and I look at ways that we can make contributions. And for example, there are tax advantages of distributions out of IRA accounts starting at age 69 and a half. Well, guess who's at that age? And so when that opportunity arose for us to discuss, we jumped in and we did a couple of significant commitments for distributions that had tax advantages to us. So we are listening to ways that we can be supportive of MFOS that are also tax advantaged for us. And it's an annual thing we look at because there will not be a year where we don't make a contribution to MFOS. There will not be a year.
That's wonderful. If you had, and this is my last question, and thank you so much for your participation. If you had a word or a phrase that a way to describe the donors that you've met, how would you describe them? People that donate to the MFOS.
Visionary. Because they understand the potential behind these students. They understand the desire, the drive, the energy. It's like the students have to prove to us that they earned this scholarship. And they don't. They don't have to prove to us. They already proved it to us by having the academic credentials. Because let's face it, we've got 48,000 applications this year. We had 46,000 applications last year to UF. For these students to be accepted by UF, they have to meet the academic requirements. That is a high bar. So they don't have to prove themselves to us, but I think that they're proving themselves to themselves and to outsiders by how well they do, by their determination, by their grit. And I think the donors are visionary in seeing that in these students and want to participate.
Thank you.
Marianne?
Just one word. I turned that one word into what, like 6 sentences or something? Okay, you can delete that out.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Marianne?
No. Hi, sorry, this is my first
Hi.
time turning on the camera. But no, I think I do have one question. I guess it's about the topic of first generation students more broadly. I think you mentioned that in your time as a fresh college student, that there wasn't the category, the first generation student hadn't quite been constructed yet. And now it's a very, very common identifier. I was wondering if you see the work of MFOS as being part of like maybe some sort of project to destigmatize first generation students, or if you like more largely and socially.
Well, I'm saddened to think of being a first generation student being a stigma. I'm saddened by that. To me, it's absolutely the opposite. It's saying, I have a goal and I'm going to reach this goal, and I'm going to do it by focusing on academics in high school and doing well on my SATs or ACTs or, my grades, so that I can get into a good university. And look, with UF being ranked the 6th best public university in the country, we are the place to go. We are more than reasonable in our tuition for those that don't get the scholarship for others. So the idea that being first generation is a stigma, like I said, is absolutely sad to me. And I would do anything I could to make these scholars or anybody on the outside looking in realize that it's an honor. It is an honor to be a first gen, because you are changing the path of your trajectory, and you're changing the path of others in your family, those behind you, your classmates in high school. You're transforming other lives besides yourself. That's not a stigma. That's not a stigma. So if it's perceived by one, we need to do a better job all the way around, because I know at UF, it's not considered stigmatized. Well, I shouldn't say that. By administrators, by faculty. And if there is some feeling that way at UF that I'm not aware of, I think we just need to do a better job in changing that view. And there's a lot of changes going on around this country about a lot of views, and maybe this is another one that just needs to be thrown in the garbage can.
Oh, I do have two more questions actually.
Sure.
Where do you see the program within the next 5 to 10 years, or even longer than that?
Well, I think as Paul, when Paul asked me that question, I think we're on a great trajectory in that we've increased the number of scholars from 300 to 350 this year. So, it's going to grow from 1,200 annually to 1,400 once each class has that 50 student increase. Believe me, we could take more than 350 a year. And how do you do that? You do that by raising more money, by increasing the endowment, by telling our story better. And I think the story has been told very well the past 15 years, but we all can do a better job. So I'd like to see in 10 years that, maybe we're giving 400 scholarships a year. So we're impacting 2,000 lives each year. So that's where I'd like to see it grow. It's a function of dollars.
All right, fantastic answer.
Certainly, the need is there. The need is there. So just need the dollars.
Last question, just to kind of conclude the interview. I would like to ask maybe to provide what advice would you provide for the next incoming MFOS group, we usually ask this question to all of our participants just to kind of, get the MFOS new students cohorts to kind of feel and gravitate towards the program and to feel welcome at the university. So what advice would you provide to them?
Well, I would make two statements. The one that I said earlier to Paul that I remember so well, that then President Lombardi made at an event at the president's house back in the 90s, where he said, if you can dream it, you can do it at UF. There's so many, with 16 colleges and so many different paths here, that if you are interested in something, you can develop it, grow it here at UF. There's nothing stopping you. So dream it, you can do it at UF. That's number one. And then number two was stealing from President Machen, where he says, once you're an MFOS scholar, you're part of the Gator Nation family forever. That idea of that this isn't just a 4-year thing, it's a forever thing. You're always going to be welcome back to UF. You're always going to be a phone call away if you need to call someone at UF. There's always somebody you can reach out to. So I think those are the two important messages. Dream and watch your dream become a reality at UF. And then recognize that you're considered family here.
Beautiful advice. Thank you so much for that.
I stole it from others. I mean, that's not
You
unique,
did copyright that. You did give credit, so that's good.
I gave them credit, exactly.
All right. Well, I think that would conclude the presentation, the interview for today. If anyone else has any questions, please do at the moment. If not, we would like to give you thanks, Joelen, for joining us today. And hope to see you in one of the events sometime soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And thank you for the opportunity. Anything I can do to enhance MFOS, just give me a call.
We truly appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.